to my first mic in like 2011.
Okay.
So it's not 20 years. I don't know how old you think I am.
Yeah, maybe I'm
old.
I think I'm thinking of like the scene is like, I know how old you are.
I'm 30 years old.
But I'm still old, like, half a decade older, so it's fine.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
And, we don't have to be funny on here too. That's part of the cool part of it is like on stage it's like, there hasn't been something funny for a minute, but we get into like the people can see other sides.
Yeah. They can see how fixated I am on child sex trafficking from Israel.
Yeah.
Fun topic.
I mean, I think, your stand-up reveals some of that as well. I don't think you really talk about things that are totally separate from that in general.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
But it's like I want to do silly bits too, and it's like I don't really know how to make it all fit. Like I've been trying to think about like I really want to record my hour, and I've been, like I had this opportunity a few years ago where someone was like, "Oh, we'll put it out," and then I never followed through. But I've been thinking like, okay, say I do want to put this hour together, what parts of like my 14 years of jokes or whatever the fuck do I include,
like,
because
what represents you now versus like, well, that's my favorite joke, but it's 10 years ago.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't really resonate with it anymore or whatever. Like I have funny jokes about being like desperately alone and like jokes that used to kill about being single and dating in Asheville or whatever. Oh, turn your humidifier off. Continuity problem.
It actually won't be. It won't be on the mic, but it will interfere with our vibe.
Yeah.
It might get hot in here towards the end. That's the temperature's part of it. I try to get it real cold before. But
like
I mean, I really like what you're saying about like just being being around like Miker energy, and then you're kind of at this different place, and you're like you have this body of work that you've worked on, and I mean, I love being around Mikers because they're gonna say new shit every week, and what I notice is at some amount of years in, you get a chunk of material that's working, and you're like, well, I could probably do all right at this show, but then if you start to say the same jokes in front of the other comics and the new people are maybe they're not good, but they're coming in with fresh ideas every week. That always makes me think like, even if the jokes are not that well crafted, the new Mikers make me feel like a fraud if I'm still doing old shit. You know what I mean? Like I like just being next to their
But then I've come
energy.
to the mics and I feel like I see the open Micers do the same jokes.
Some
too,
of them,
though.
and that's bad when you're like, when
it's
you
like,
come back
dude,
and
you have 5 minutes that you've been doing for
6 months. And it's like,
and that's brutal.
Not really,
it's not even
try something
killing.
Else. Yeah.
It's not even doing good. It's one thing if it's destroying every time.
Yeah,
You're
right.
like, okay. We had a couple like comics like that in Atlanta who would do 7-10 minute sets around town, and you would be like, oh, it's like the same set everywhere. And you're like, do they do other jokes? And you're kind of like, oh, they don't, but they do well with these and people like it, But it's like to see the ones that aren't, they're getting like the and you're like, this is the 10th time I've seen this. I'm not even out that much. So how am I seeing this many times, bro? Like, ouch.
And I like that. I like that I feel like a fraud if I'm like, here I go again with this joke, and I see, I mean, the comics are not even really listening. Everyone's thinking about themselves, but in my mind, I'm like, I'm a fraud.
Yes.
And I like that feeling because it makes me go home and be like, I gotta come up with some new shit, even if it's bad. Like, I would rather bomb with some new stuff and some risks than like.
Yeah.
I think there was a few years there where I was like, I'd go into the mic like, I'm going to do all new shit. And then it'd be a really hot room. And I'd be like, well, I want them to like me. So I'm actually going to do my
tried and trues.
Yeah.
But then you feel bad if the tried and trues don't work as well as
you
half
the time they don't even work still. And you're like, fuck, not only did I not grow, but it's like those tried and trues I can't even deliver them with enough emotion anymore to sell them.
Yeah. I think open mics are just such a wild card too, because it's like, if you're marketing a show, you're kind of maybe catering it, you're trying to market it to a certain audience or whatever, you're flyering in certain neighborhoods, whatever the thing may be. But open mic, you're just like, whoever the fuck is walking in that night for free, they want free entertainment. They're from God knows where, what age, what culture. It's Asheville, so it's like, it's a lot of tourists a lot of times, I guess, but it's also some people that come pretty regularly too, and I think that makes you feel like, I don't know, I feel like I kind of like that, because then it's like, oh, it's not a homogenous crowd.
Right.
You're kind of actually doing it a trial. But there's always like, I think Andy Sanford wrote about this on his comedy blog, but it's like, yeah, at open mic, you can do a couple of things that you're still trying to hone. and maybe one thing that works really good or whatever, but you always want to be throwing something at the wall, because why else are you there? It's like, otherwise it's just gonna feel kind of like stale. But I don't know, it's just, I think for me over the years, it's just like the more present I am and the more I just lean into being like the most flamboyant, like just flagrant version of myself.
Yeah, you're a performer.
People
you don't just stand there and say the jokes.
But I used to be more like that back in the day.
More deadpan, yeah. But I think that is part of your people. You can kind of tap into the Bugs Bunny, and I think that's
Bugs
great.
Bunny, like all animated.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that's kind of like like Cody, or like I think Petey does a really good job of like he'll mix it. He'll be like chill, but then when he does the act out, he like explodes into Bug Bunny, and then he's back to like dude talking.
Yeah,
and I'm kind of would like to explore that range more. I feel like I kind of just stand and I'm trying to like get some choreography in there, like like I'll notice
you need to do some movement work,
sound effect, or movement, then like there'll be a different kind of laugh.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh yeah,
you got a lot of you got more canvas that you're working.
Yeah,
with.
right.
You're tall. Do you have a positive ape index? Do we know this yet? Because Tom Peters does, and he used to talk about it.
That means your arms are longer than they should be. Probably.
No, not that should be. Let's not be mean. Okay, sorry,
we're body
Tom,
shaming
if you're watching.
Tom. Like,
he's not watching this. But it's if your arms are longer than you are tall.
Yeah.
It's no shoulds in there.
It's not like Leonardo da Vinci proved that it should be a circle, and Tom, as a broken man,
it'd be so funny to redraw it with extra long arms for Tom.
Yeah.
And all the others that we love with long arms. But I mean,
really want to get Tom on here.
Yeah, he visits. He's busy, hotshot New York comic.
Yeah.
But you should get Taylor on here too.
Yeah, I would love to have Taylor.
He's another comedian music guy.
Oh, is he? I didn't even know that.
He plays music, yeah.
Okay, I kind of just missed him. I think he was leaving right around the months I was starting, so I never. But I've seen him when he comes back, and he's very fun.
He's very funny.
He'll just
and he's very easygoing.
Yeah, he'll start a thing, and you're like, "What?" And by the end, it's like,
he's
taking it to some.
He used to have this bit about a serial killer who they found like the remains of these women with like rocks in the women's vaginas, and he used to do like an extended bit about that,
and he could make it funny.
Yeah,
a white dude, okay,
with glasses,
because that's, I feel like 9 out of 10 open mic dudes are like with glasses. It's like they go for those topics right away. It's like, oh, it's my first year, so I'm going to talk about horrific sexual assault.
Right.
It's like
9/11. Yeah,
it's got to be the punchline has to be so good, because people are like, you're taking them through this place of trauma,
right?
But then those are my favorite jokes when they land.
And I think when they're off, they feel authentic to the person. Like when it doesn't feel like they're just trying to be edgelordy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like their Bill Hicks impression or whatever. Yeah.
Like Jay Badlani is a comic in Atlanta that I love. I think maybe he moved to New York. Someone was telling me that. Anyways, he's like has a lot of jokes about like terrorism, 9/11, all this stuff. But you could be like, oh, he's being edgelordy, but it's like it's true. That's truly how he feels and thinks, like in those comedic, like very sardonic way. So it doesn't feel like he's putting something on. But then it's like, I feel like sometimes you get like a 18-year-old YouTube commenter type vibe from someone who does it, and you're like, is that really your experience? Cause
like Kill Tony, I think that's the same as which is like, not to say there aren't moments that can be good, but like when you just start from like, well, it's got to just be 100% shock the whole time, like YouTube comments.
I mean, I won't say I categorically hate Kill Tony.
What about writing up some jokes and then occasionally go, oh, I'm going to do a shocking one, instead of being like, well, first of all, everything's got to be abortion and whatever. I'm not even going to say the other words, but
say all the other words, Ryan. The rest of the episode,
both R words. I mean, I've said them on here before, but I do try to be mindful of, it's early on.
Those episodes better be removed.
If you're still watching in an hour, it gets a little looser,
Oh, okay.
Like this could potentially be the.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, that to me, what you said about if it feels authentic to you, I think that's like your stand-up feels like you spend time. You don't sit down with the topics of like, traumatic things that happen globally and go, should do these. It's kind of like you're already thinking about those, which is kind of interesting, because I think if people met you at like a bar or something, you might kind of present as like a happy-go-lucky type person. Which
I am mostly.
I've known you for a while, so
I'm generally goofy. I have a bad temper where I get real angry, but I I have this weird annual job where I have to read human rights reports every year, and so that's I read them for like a decade before I realized, oh, that's what's been affected. That's why I'm so cynical.
Do you do it all at one time in the year? Like,
I have to.
so
They make you.
The mic sets like after that. Like
Ooh.
there's.
Oh my God, I've definitely
the faces getting sewn shut. I think I remember that. That might have been like right after you.
Faces sewn shut.
Yeah, there was some face sewing that you did. This is like pre-COVID.
I don't remember.
But it was
face sewing.
it was so horrific that I still have nightmares about it. But now it makes sense. That was probably like the week after.
Wow.
You read just like, and you're just like.
I've had a lot of head injuries, so I can't remember that.
Someone hands you a mic, it's like
face sewing.
Some of it's gonna be. I mean, to me, that's kind of where I want to go more with it in the next 10 years. Is like, at first, it's like, can I get a laugh anywhere?
Right.
And your act becomes any fucking thing that gets laughs consistently. And then the longer you go, you might be like, what do I want to talk about?
Right.
And that's kind of cool where you're skilled enough to actually.
Well, yeah, they call it finding your voice. So what is your voice? What is your voice trying to say? And it's like, I'm like, yeah, what kind of comedy am I making for whom? And like, I love your like Brian Regan's and your Nate Bargatze's, or, like the traditional whatever, but it's like,
classic.
Classic, but it's like, Nate Bargatze apparently said something about like, why wouldn't you want to be for everybody? I want everybody to like me. Some people are like, well, I'm not for everybody. And he's like, why not? And it's like, that's sweet. Like, he can do that because there aren't people that like outright hate him categorically because he's a man or because he's white. You know what I mean? It's like, people don't like me just by looking at me. They're like, I'm not going to pay attention to this chinky queer weirdo. Like, they just see me and they're like, nope, like, no thanks. Or they're like, oh, I'm curious. And then I say something that's not like relatable enough in the first minute. And then they're like, nope, I'm done. So it's like, I feel like I have a lot less leeway and I have to just be like outrageous in the first minute and a half, outrageously hilarious, or else like they don't give a fuck.
He's like Tom Hanks or something. He can kind of be the everyman.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you're not profiled
to
that
me
way.
It's just like capitalist consumerist market logic where it's like, who has the most expendable income and time to watch and spend money, and that's what people are interested in. So it's like, yeah, you have a lot of white people have most of the wealth and income, so then it's like, well, who's going to buy these tickets? Who's going to watch these reels?
Totally.
Whoever's got the most access to smartphones and blah blah. So I don't know, but I think that's changing with whatever China
and big cities maybe have more pockets of like that diversity. But yeah, I think it's like it is economics, and that I often wonder. Like I took French in high school. I don't really speak much Spanish, but like I bet there are like Latino community shows happening here that like like you said, there's not the budget to put it in the theater and have the tickets go on sale. But
why don't we have a chocolate Sundays?
I bet it's like funnier.
Just
I bet it's like crazy, like just more
just
like
Petey and CJ.
You know what I mean? It's almost like it's not it's underground because of just economics or something like that. Yeah, like what's mainstream is. Yeah.
I don't know. It's like it can dilute it because basically I saw that, after COVID, it just became so trendy and cool to do stand up way more, because people were on their phones so much. And then I'm just kind of like, I don't want to really add to the phone addiction by creating more it just doesn't appeal to me. Like, I like to perform. I would love to be able to perform an hour and tour that, but then I also am like, do I? Because COVID and super spreader events, and that's really a thing that we is still happening that we don't talk about, that we ignore. Like,
you want to, you should do it still. Those people are gonna die either way. Like, you should do your art and get out there.
I don't know. That's why I like outdoor events. So
yeah, the COVID wave is real, and I feel like the Kill Tony kind of took off took over comedy culture to some degree then too.
Well, and a lot of people moved to Austin.
Yeah,
like Duncan
and
Trussell, and yeah.
But like now, I feel like some of the COVID comics in Asheville, the ones that have found their voice like it was 3 years ago, it was like all new people trying to figure it out with shock. But now there's like the ones that have like worked at it and found their voices. Like it's been enough years.
Oh, they found their voices in 3 years.
I mean.
That's incredible.
Well, I think it's a spectrum. I don't think it's binary. I don't think you ever find your voice, but I think before I die,
never-ending process, I guess.
Like I was singing my voice, and now I'm trying to talk my voice, and it's like, before you die.
Did you do your warm-ups before? I saw Tom York do that in a documentary. I was like, does he really do that before every show? Like backstage, like, Like, Jesus, like, is that real? Like,
Yeah.
are you putting it on for the
I
documentary?
bet it is. I bet it's
I
real.
think he does,
I think
but-
it's. He seems.
They're
like,
canceled now.
He doesn't
Johnny
seem like he's
Greenwood's-
just like smoking a pack of cigarettes and,
Yeah.
drinking. But Radiohead's canceled.
Johnny Greenwood's married to an Israeli person, so they've been very pro-Israel. The Zionists are coming out of the fucking woodwork.
Yeah.
I walked this lady's dog, and she was trying to show me how these hostages were released, and she's like, after all they've been through. I'm like, after what all the IDF soldiers hostages have been through. I'm like, I don't know. We're about to. There's like tens of thousands of people who are experiencing a famine, and probably. They say like documented 57,000 plus people have been murdered, but there's many more under the rubble, many undercounts, and it's like we're supposed to just be casual and be like, oh, I noticed something at the. It's like, no, dude, I don't feel like fucking going and doing comedy. I'm seeing a live stream genocide. I don't feel like being Mr. Chuckles right now. Like, and then when I go and I get the dopamine hit of getting laughs based on my little ideas, it's like, okay, well, art's important and we all need to express ourselves in these times. But art is important and it's world building and it's like we need to be able to envision something different. But I have so much like dystopic visions and nightmares that it's like I want to envision something better and be able to talk about that. But it's like that's not really, is that funny? Like a utopia where like money is meaningless, you know what I mean? It's like I don't know how to make that like
Yeah,
but I guess I need to figure it out. That's like a goal. Or
still seems worthwhile to chase it. I mean, I notice the less I feel like going to stand up, like sometimes there'll just be so much intense shit going on with family or my job,
right?
That I'm like, I just won't go out. And then when I finally do go out, when it seems the least important, that's when I come home and I'm like, whoa, I was really dysregulated. And just sitting in a room full of people telling their stories from different, really like, it'll kind of, like I'll get into that. I shouldn't go because there's more important stuff. But that's, for me, I've noticed that's what I need it the most. So I'm trying to like, and actually lately there's been a lot of like, I work in climate research. So it's like,
so you know.
So my job is like extremely just,
you know about this shit.
It's just like, people are just getting fired and laid off and there's no money. And so it's like, why would I go to comedy right now when I don't know if I can feed my family? But actually it's like helping me stabilize me that there's not just this trauma with work. There's this other.
Absolutely.
Just the silliness of, so it's like on the one hand, like, let's forget the world's problems and laugh about somebody's interaction at a restaurant.
Yeah.
But then I think it helps me build my capacity to go back to real problems too.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It's like,
it's almost like I feel guilty being like, I shouldn't just go have fun for a few hours.
Right.
That's what a narcissist would do.
Yeah. And it's also just like my own myopia. You know, it's like when I get in that tunnel vision of feeling anxious and stressed out and getting into my dystopic spirals, it's like, it's still kind of about me and my neuroses and my fears. You know, it's like I'm missing the bigger picture of like, we're not just us little comedians, like me one comedian with my one little ideas. It's like there's a whole community of people who are trying to just express themselves during a horrific, empire collapsing techno-feudalist time or whatever. You know, it's like there's another
some great language in it.
Techno-feudalism is a book that my friend told me
and
about.
ended with you landed the kickflip there with the.
God. You fed me some
coffee.
But
I mean, what do you think that it's interesting? Like, I mean, I would imagine even if you weren't doing comedy, though, you would still. That's kind of just you tend to think deeply about. You're very affected by whatever. I don't know if that's because you have experienced more different cultures than probably most people at a comedy show, or if even if you never. I
think it's early childhood trauma, and I think it's being an immigrant. Like, I think that's part of why comedy is like essential in a way for me, and I need to remind myself that, because it's like if you're into like somatic therapy at all, it's like body-based therapy basically. That's like fancy
pressure points and stuff.
Somatic just means, I think it just means body-based, but basically there's like people who get licensed in somatic experiencing, which is it's a branded type of
like where do
therapy.
You feel that trauma? Like I feel a tightness here, and now we can work with that.
Yes, exactly. So it's all about body-based things. And so as a person who had a lot of early childhood trauma, I spent a lot of time building up a really resilient, self-preservative mechanism for dissociating and avoidance, and that's helped me survive, and it got me out of where I needed to get out of, but it also makes it so that I'm very good at avoiding things that are actually good for me or whatever. But something with the comedy really helps me with is it is something you have to be to do your best at comedy. You have to be fully embodied, and so it's like if
does that mean the same as like commit to the bit, or
I mean embodied, like literally, like you have to be so in your body and super present.
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
like like basically. Trauma is like teaches you to get out of your body and not feel it because it's too much, and your body, your mind literally just is like, nope, we're clocking out. And so I spent years of my life like not even knowing like, what do I even want? Like, am I hungry? Like different things like that are really basic for a lot of people. It's like a big relearning process. That's why I think people think I look younger than I look, because I spent so much time just trying to experience as little stress as possible, just smoking so much weed and just being like, keep me like incubated and, and
like face just like
yeah, just like clocked the F out, because
not maxing out all your wrinkles.
Yeah, well, I do like to do that, because I do think that Maria Bamford is a bit about doing that. But apparently people who get Botox, they experience greater depression and anxiety because they're unable to experience the full range of their emotions. Yeah. So I like to be able to move my face muscles.
I don't plan on getting Botox.
You just try not to move your face. That's my tactic, because it's the DIY cheaper method. So when someone says something funny, you just don't laugh.
Yeah,
it works out after years.
The present thing though, that almost goes back to like why open micers are saying new shit that week. Like if I'm saying something new, and I don't even know if I can land it or if it's funny, I am so engaged.
Yes, exactly.
For a bad set even. Whereas like when you play the hits, sometimes I start thinking I got to do laundry when I'm going to get home. And then that's like...
You kind of go into an autopilot.
Yeah. So
apparently Colin, what was the guy who did Weekend Update? Oops.
Farrell? Is it the actor?
Not
Colin,
the actor. Quinn.
Quinn.
Oh my God.
There it is.
Okay. I used to
they're both the Irish Collins. It's not like they're that far apart. I mean, it's basically
Farrell,
the same guy.
The guy who won an Oscar for
stuttering. There's a funny one, and then there's a... there's a
funny
Daniel Day one.
Yeah, exactly.
You're talking about the funny one.
I'm talking about the funny
one. Not the Daniel Day one.
But apparently he said that once about like, you're ready to tape your hour when you're like killing with it, but you're sick of it and you can do it in your sleep. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'm like, who the fuck am I? I'm like, I don't agree with that. She who has no specials out. But it's like, it's just, to me, it's more fun to at least have some new shit in there. Like Todd Barry has an album where he's like, here's a bunch of jokes that I'm sick of telling, and here's some new stuff that's not quite as ready, but I like telling, and it's like, that's honest. That's the experience.
Yeah, listen to Chris Fleming. He's someone I'm kind of just, I'll just scroll and be like, well, this feels new. And he was on WTF, and he was talking about how he's like, for him.
Is that the guy with the mullet?
He has long curly hair and really big glasses, and he runs around a lot.
Yeah, he's very dynamic.
Yeah, extremely dynamic, like a theater kind of kid.
Right.
But he was saying like, and this makes sense for what his comedy looks like, that like the peak time is like the third or time or something, where it's like, I have a framework for what I'm doing, but then it's like, I want people to see it while I am still don't know if I can land it.
Right.
Whereas, when
it's
you get
more
to the
exciting.
point, and I feel like a lot of specials I've seen are worse because I saw him on tour. I was in the room, and
totally.
The messy version,
right.
like Norm's got bootlegs on YouTube where you can hear these messier versions, and you can almost feel the performer go like, "This is my weekend. I've got to over memorize it," and it's like you kind of need that for the general audience, maybe, but for the comedy nerds or people that do it, I do think the messy work in progress.
Yeah,
it's like the Beatles anthology. Like to me, that's like kind of more interesting than some of the albums, like the half-finished, the bad ideas next to the good ideas is better than 100% A+ worked out shit.
Right.
It's almost like boring.
Because you're still playing with it and it's still interesting to you. You're not like, I'm over it and I know how this goes, but it's like...
And the listener can feel that life in it. That you are kind of like, I don't know if this is working. And that's compelling.
Yeah, Duncan Trussell called it like... He's seen headliners on the road where it feels like resuscitating a cadaver. And you're like, oh my God, I never fucking want to be that.
Comedy Zone headliner.
Oh my God. The boat comics, that people talk about boat comics disparagingly. I'm sure they're not all bad, but supposedly they're not
cruises, you
the
mean?
best. Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, it's work, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to do one cruise, and I expect it to be the worst week of my life, but just to have,
the experience.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
do you know that David Foster Wallace essay about the cruise?
No.
Going on a cruise? It's in that collection of essays called A Supposedly Fun Thing I'll Never Do Again. Shout out Suicide King, David Foster Wallace. But he's one of those writers to me where I remember reading in the past thinking things were really funny that he wrote, and then I go back to reread it and I'm like, this is really sad. And I'm like, oh, maybe because I'm an older, wiser human.
Yeah.
I don't just see like the surface level tee hee ha ha.
Or it's good art is like you come back to it different points in your life and you see a whole different side of it. It's like a movie you can watch again and again and you're like, oh, it was a comedy this time. Last time it was a thriller.
True. Well, he talked about how he wrote Infinite Jest to try to make it the saddest book ever. And then people became all obsessed with it like 10 years after it came out. And he was like, supposedly he was like confused by how funny people thought it was, which is like, as a comedian who's trying to get the laughs, it's so offensive. It's like, shut the fuck up, David Foster Wallace. But like
maybe he's integrated funny so much into his DNA that everything's funny. Even if you're like, I'm gonna be serious, people are like,
did you ever read Infinite Jest?
No,
I never finished it.
No,
but I remember thinking it was
that good.
I remember thinking it was funny. I mean, it's like a fucking 1,000 pages.
Do you tend to finish books, or you?
I finish a lot of books, but I skip a lot.
I will at this point. I'm just like, I will pay for a movie and watch half of it because I got shit to do. Like I don't need to feel obligated.
Yeah.
But it is nice to finish things.
I like to do audiobooks when I walk because I have to walk these dogs. And
so what kind of audiobooks? Like what's like Minori 2025, like nonfiction, fiction?
I'm trying to do one a week and it's tough, but I'm 3 behind right now.
Yeah.
I like all kinds of shit, but there's a guy, there's like this Korean German philosopher guy, and I don't want to butcher his name, but he's got like a book called Psychopolitics, and he references the techno-feudalism book. But anyways, I don't know, he's talking about how we used to live in like a punishment society where people would be punished for certain things, but now we live in an achievement society, so people punish themselves when they don't achieve. They see it as a self-failure instead of a societal structural failure. And I'm like, yeah, I see that.
I blame both, for all my I constantly blame probably myself more, I'd say.
Well, that's
I'm
his
harder
whole
on
point.
Myself, but
that people are too hard on themselves.
Yeah. It'll spill over onto other people sometimes. So. If you're standing next to me,
Okay. Well, I'm sure it comes from somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did you grow up in the church?
Yeah, but it was a very cool church. Like I grew up at a church where
the pastor wore sunglasses.
No, he was not cool. He was very boring. But like as an example, like we had like in the 90s, we had a gay person come talk to our church. It was like, I'm a Christian and I'm gay and this is fine. And other like Baptist
and
churches
everyone was like,
town,
it's not fine.
No, our church was down. It was like a bunch of scientists or like, it's as many ways to God. You can be a Buddhist. So, in hindsight, I grew up like Christian, but it was like very cool. It was just like, faith and community. And, yeah.
And that's what that's what spirituality should be about, is faith and community.
Yeah, and inclusion.
Like togetherness. And yes.
Like they're all basically the same.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some cults that might try to isolate you from your, that's bad. But I mean, generally it's
bad.
like, yeah, I don't know. I've been, I like reading the old books, and it's just the idea that you should try to like take on other people's suffering, and like we're all kind of one organism. Know? To me, that's what prayer, faith is like. And as I get older and have kids, I am kind of like, all right, some of those ideologies do hold up, even though like the specifics aren't the same.
Right.
Just we're all
about when
together.
You can be near the menstruating women. We don't need all those rules. I think leave that stuff out.
I'm just always next to the whole group my whole life, There's always 3 menstruating women
near you
within like arm's length of me.
Oh, no wonder you're in touch with your feminine side.
Yeah, and then I'll go hang out with a bunch of bros, and I'm like, this is way less
too
safe.
Aggro.
Yeah, like
I feel in danger.
Yeah.
Can someone talk about their feelings real quick?
Yeah, there's no blood in any of the toilets. This is weird.
Hey, can you guys cut yourself right here? To comfort me. But yeah, I mean, I feel like because we have such a specific little town, it's a small mountain town that encourages the arts. And sure, it might be slightly melanin deficient, but there is a certain valuing of art, expression, nature, community in a way that you lose, I feel like, in a bigger city. You know, like I was thinking about it, and it's like the bigger you of a city that you're in, the more diluted like the moral compass and the values of the place becomes, because it just becomes more like America, which is bad and evil and an empire and cares about itself. And so you want to be somewhere when you're building your art that where you can truly be yourself and be embodied and feel safe. And I don't know. I mean, for a long time, I was like, Atlanta was that place for me, but I just basically couldn't really afford it. And I felt like it would be great to be able to live there and do comedy, but I don't know. I guess like my time there is over for now, and I would love to go to another big city to do more comedy. But it's like, if I could just live in LA and do comedy and pursue it there, I feel like, yeah, I would do better. I would like it better, and I would get more opportunities. But what that entails is so laborious, and it entails completely rehauling my life in a way that would, you know, make it like all the other shit I talked about, the avoidance, I can't be comfortably avoiding and procrastinating if I completely rehaul my life. So
yeah, you're not at a point where you're like, comedy is my entire life and I will sacrifice everything else. I mean, I think that's kind of you better be 26 or below if you're gonna, like, the nice thing about me is that like I have kids in school here. I have like I don't even have to worry about stressing myself out about where I should move to max my whole comedy challenge is just I'm gonna be here. So I'm trying to build expand that radius so I can each year I go back to your place and have some new stuff. But I'm not trying to start at the back of the list on the mic at midnight and work my way up, and
pay,
exactly,
and bark.
But if you're young and you're hungry and you have all this bandwidth in your schedule, I love to see people go do it. I almost feel like it's a little like when Dante moves to Atlanta or something. I'm like, yeah, go get him. I can kind of vicariously watch, or Cody goes to.
Cody goes to. Yes, I know who.
You know Cody.
Is. Yeah, Cody's very funny.
We've all forgotten Cody.
Cody's been on this show like 80 times.
Well, there's a joke that the podcast is about Cody, and it's kind of a place where we just process Cody. That's become less of a relevant joke, probably
since he moved away.
But
okay, fair enough. Shout out fellow Aquarius, Cody Hughes.
Yeah.
His sister is so funny. I'm obsessed with his sister,
and in such
Katie.
a different way, too. In such a different, they're like night and day styles.
But also just both very intelligent. Like, they both skipped a grade. They're both nerdy kids.
They both skipped a grade?
Yes.
I didn't know either of them did.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep. Flat Rock, North Carolina.
Yeah. Well, it's probably easy to skip those grades.
Yeah, let's be honest.
They probably still are less educated than not skipping a grade literally anywhere else.
We went from
complimenting them to shitting on them, which I think it's both compliments. I mean,
but no, Katie Hughes was the first person to ever book me on a show. So, at the Magnetic Field.
Oh, yeah, she and Chris were around when I started.
Chris Weathers is he's so
good
funny.
Lord.
He is the one person where I'm like, I wish 20 open micers I know would quit and he would start again. Yeah,
most times he's like, I'm not going up. And then every now and then he's like, all right, I'll go up. And it's like, it's breathtaking.
Yeah.
Never to be said again. You're just like, oh my God. Like, whether he's improvising or doing one-liners, like he just lives comedy.
He has some bit about that I've seen him do once or twice, but it was about how him and LeBron James weigh the same. And he's like, those are such different weight journeys. He's like, I bet LeBron doesn't know you can get peanut M&Ms at the AutoZone. And that punchline will just pop into my head every once in a while. Or I'll see peanut M&Ms and I'll just think about that. And I'm just like...
Oh, man. The picture. He painted the picture with a small number of specific words.
And he's just very himself. He's kind of neurotic and in his head. And then when he's on stage, he's kind of all over the place, But it's true to him and it's very funny and compelling.
He reminds me of Cody, in that he's, you see the room go, that dude's fun as hell. I'm going to go talk to him at the bar. Neither of those dudes at the bar as soon as the mic is back in the stand and they're like, that guy's gone. And that's so fascinating because, you have somebody like Hillary who's like, she's all at the bar, same, or Macon or somebody.
Kyle Kinane, he's the same.
Okay. So it's kind of, that's interesting too. You know? I think you're the
Judah,
same. But
I'm pretty much
there's almost
the same.
those two ways to do it. Are you becoming the other guy or are you?
Judah Friedlander is another one where I've seen a really drastic change. Where he's very like kind of a shy guy off stage, but he thinks it's funny, like the persona of someone who's so confident and calls himself the champion. That's like the shtick, and he's always like doing crowd work, putting people down because he thinks that kind of crowd work is like ridiculous, but it also gets that reaction too. It's like
he's got
kind of multi-layered.
There's some irony happening, but it can work on either level.
Yeah. Shout out Judah Friedlander. He's awesome.
Yeah, I love that's what I love about Cody.
Reggie Watts. You got to open for Reggie.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
That was crazy.
I met him after the show, but he was very nice.
So nice. So chill. Such a sweet dude.
The opposite of what we were talking about with the headliners, where you're like, yes, go and meet your heroes. He is so sweet.
Well, he's like, I think that if you get to do something like the Orange Peel or something like that occasionally, there's different... The headliner there that brought all those people out is going to be different than the Comedy Zone headliner.
Right.
Where it's a bunch of folks that are like, oh, there's comedy tonight. Let's go.
Right.
Like Reggie Watts is like his own brand, his own universe. Yeah, based on his name. Whereas like I've noticed the more jaded clowns are often more like, it's not their
Reggie's
name.
like, it's not fair to compare anybody to Reggie. He does his own art. He calls himself a disinformationist. He's not even calling himself a comedian.
I'm still trying to process what the hell happened.
His vocal... capacity, like the way he can do million accents, his range, like chest voice range, like I think he majored in jazz vocals or something, but he's just a machine, and he's also just so trippy and out there, like he straight up came from outer space.
And there's a huge audience there. That's the part that really blows my mind.
It was
it's like
packed.
He's connecting. He's being that weird and he's connecting. I'm like, I didn't even know there was
so
enough
inspiring.
people around that would even get this.
Right.
That's
exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's like, what and like seeing shows like that, you're like, okay, like just lean into who you are and your brand of weird and whatever you're doing, because people just don't know that it's out there, and once they find out, maybe they'll be into it. Like I walked this dog the other day, and this woman was like, her roommate was like, oh, you're hilarious, like I've been following you for years and you moved to Atlanta, right? And I was like, oh yeah, like lots of women like my comedy, but they're not all like loud and intense about it, and so I need to just make it for those people who are like quietly appreciating my shit.
That's the new model. I mean, maybe it's always the model, but it's like, find your niche, and that's like me. I dabble in the onlines because you have to, but it's like, but I've noticed that like if I really wanted to read up on marketing and really maximize my followers, it would be like I would wear some crazy glasses and I would talk about only like the 90s. I'm the 90s dad. It's blah blah, and you'd like, I go to the 90s dad for that, and then it's like, most people
so
would
cringy to do something like that.
But that's, I see people do that, and it's like you blow up. Whereas when you're a generalist, you're like, I'm just a guy talking about different aspects of my life. I want to have the freedom to talk about anything. People don't even know how to remember you or go to you, and the internet has made that where I'm like, I don't want to be the gimmick guy.
Exactly.
But if I did, I bet I could get more numbers.
Not to get to whatever with the techno-feudalism shit, but that's kind of the nature of capital, right? Capitalism is like, it pushes us into specialization. Like we used to all be generalists. We used to like bake and farm and nanny and we just called it life. Like, and church and like worshiping something sacred. If you're an indigenous person, it wasn't church. It was just like part of the community and part of culture. We didn't even, there was like, until missionaries came, like the word religion didn't exist because it just was the way it was.
Yeah, it was
the air. Yeah. So it's like, what is religion? Like, it's just like, oh, you mean to love everybody and to respect the earth,
We have a name for it. And yours is wrong. and you guys are slaves now.
Don't put your thingy in that hole or you're banned. It's like, that's weird to make these rules.
Yeah.
But they exist even in like culture, small cultures too. Like I used to try to do a bit about this one culture where like, because it's such a unique masculinity, right? Anybody who studies cultural anthropology ends up being told this about this one culture where it's like a manhood ritual, right? And the young boys fellate the elder
I've heard
men.
of that, yeah.
Yes, you've heard of it too. So it's like bizarre sexual whatever dominating behavior exists in any culture. It doesn't just have to be Western imperialism, but
And if I'm in like a super open-minded space on the right day, I might be like, maybe for them
yeah,
at that time,
Right.
maybe I shouldn't 100% say that's wrong.
yeah, but it's like cultural
Gonna have to
relatives
edit
and
that out
where's the
later.
line, you
Yeah.
know? It's like
Like
female genital
judgment.
mutilation.
Yeah.
Like there's women in Africa that are like, that's my culture and I'm not okay with it and it's not okay, you know? So it's like, where do you
Yeah.
draw the line? If you ask those boys, they'd probably be like, I didn't like it. And the men would be like, well, this is just what we do and I had to do it when I was your age. And I'm like, can they change it?
Just wait 20 years. You'll be glad.
But
Hey,
I'm like,
look.
I mean, if you're not from the culture, you're not from the culture, but it's like,
Yeah, I mean, it's like judging thy neighbor, like other parts of the world. It's like, I mean, yeah, we've mentioned Israel, and it's like, I don't really think I'm ever going to understand it like enough to, but at the same time, it's like.
that's a cop-out, Ryan.
Yeah, exactly. Apathy. So you have the spectrum between like, I don't fucking give a shit, I'm watching my Netflix, and like, they need to be here. And, it's like they both seem evil as shit to me. So it's like, how do you find like a.
I'm gonna have to.
Like, I mean, I'm just trying to like not judge my family and neighbors, but then sometimes you do have to have a judgment. Like, it's useful. So like, I've been thinking a lot
like,
about
where
just
would
judgment and
people had
what's right, what's
judgments
wrong.
and they had strong opinions when Nazi Germany was happening. The Russians were like, Nazis are evil, and they killed most of them. We have so much propaganda that people think the U.S. killed most of the Nazis. No, the Nazis actually got reincorporated into American government with new biographies and different names.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know.
The real greatest generation, Russians that just died in the last 10 to 20 years.
Yeah, they killed all the Nazis.
And they probably died longer ago than that, because I think it might be a little harder.
But
in
you know
Russia.
what? Nazis are doing fine. They're making a comeback right now. They're having their glow up, okay? So they don't care about me talking shit about
Yeah, I
them
mean,
in this room.
just ideas and words, and like, like you were saying back when we were generalists, and you like milk the cow and you mend the clothing, and it's like these just things you touch and feel, and now it's like concepts, global concepts, historical, like so much information. It's just, I don't know.
It's a lot. And it's
like, what obligation? I'm doing well and I have this information, like I should be trying to fix this stuff, but it's like also like nice thing about kids is I'm like, well, I could probably have an effect.
they will tell you their opinion soon. And then they'll be like, Dad, you're wrong about Israel.
And I would never say I'm right about Israel. I would never be like,
I'm just saying people use the statement that it's complicated and both sides, but it's like being like creationist and the science story is the same. It's like it's not all things equal, know, and people settled into this area that is an ancient land and they colonized people. Just like white people came here, colonized this place, and now I live on stolen land and I'm evil, and all U.S. money is blood money. All currency is blood money to me. So I participate in this society as a hypocrite, and I have to deal with that, and that's part of.
But what's your
part of
other
life.
alternative? Like, how would you not?
Oh, killing yourself.
Bravery.
That's a thing that other people have chosen. That is a choice I choose not to make. But I get why lots of people have made that choice.
Yeah,
when you're younger, you're like, why would you do that? Yeah. And then you're like, oh, I get it when you get older.
I got it when I was younger. I mean,
you got it when you were younger? How young, Brian? You look at the camera nervous. You're like, who's watching?
I don't like doing too much editing post-production.
Yeah. Fair enough. We don't need to get
no, I like
psychological.
We're sloshing around. I like it's like a jam,
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't incorporate a musical jam into this.
Well,
that would be very all over the place category-wise. To your point of going the opposite of finding your need, you'd just be like, "Oh, I'm doing comedy now. I'm doing music."
Well, it is a little messy like that. Like all the music on the pot, like the intro music and the transition and outro, is me playing without knowing what the song is. So the soundtrack to the podcast is music that was created where I'll just play drums and then I'll just play others, and I won't. It's not like a song with things written down. So the sounds are kind of like this, where like at first I wanted to have like more coherent, structured interviews, but then I found that like my favorite parts would be when we're connecting. Like whatever, we've talked about so many things, you know, global stuff, comedy, like the idea of like being present versus like being over rehearsed has come up a few times. Like there's these themes, and it's just like in music where some little lick, somebody else will play it back, and then you'll be in a new key. It becomes a
motif.
Motif. So it's, we're just making sounds.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I feel like these conversations have helped me a lot with bits.
Yeah.
Like I can do structured, coherent ideas later, but I'll get something from us just being like, I don't know where we'll be in 30 seconds.
This is total tangent, but do you identify as either an introvert or an extrovert? I think that it's obviously all a spectrum, blah, 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 but it's also like.
I think I'm pretty like dead in the middle, because like I think I definitely need my recharge time, but I also like to, like, part of the idea of this podcast is Emily's like, you talk too much. Let's get some other people over, because, you know, it's I need that. I need to interact with people.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's music and comedy, or like, I think I'm on the autism spectrum. I identify, so it's like, this is easier than just going to a party where I don't understand what you're supposed to do for 3 hours. Whereas like, we're just talking.
You don't understand what you're supposed to do at a party?
No, I don't. I've never, and I've like, it's a
party, right? You're just supposed to hang out.
So that's the introvert part. That's like why, and I'm 45, so I'm like, I'd spend a while trying to figure that out.
You go and just be yourself.
Yeah.
You say hi to people. You eat the snacks. Yeah. You pet the animals.
You're acting like you never heard this before from anyone. Every other person I talk to knows what to do at parties. Come on, like, this is...
No, my stepdad told me that he doesn't know, but he's also identifies as on the spectrum now that I've hammered in that.
Where do you think you are on that introvert extrovert?
I think I've always been pretty E, but I think COVID and getting older, I've become more I. But I've been wondering about like, something related to a bit about being an extrovert, because it's like, it feels creepy to be an extrovert, you know? It's like, oh, I can't
What's going on over here?
Yeah, I'm like, I can't recharge without I'm like, let me get some more energy from you. It just feels so like gross, like, ew, just go take care of yourself. And it's like, I need to be around you. It's like, it feels so needy.
Yeah, I mean,
and vampiric.
There's different ways, like when you're doing the extrovert part, like there are the people that just, when you finish talking to them, you go, oh, they fucking sucked my life force energy out. But then there's other people that are extroverted where they kind of can like build you up.
I'm needy in a clownish way. So it's like, if I'm interacting with someone, I'm probably trying to like entertain them or comfort them or like get to know them better and just like connect about something, you know, because I've noticed that like, a lot of people are just lonely and disconnected, and they're really eager for some kind of human connection, especially with women, and especially with the types of women they're not used to seeing. They're like, ooh, an Oriental one. Ooh, and it's like, I don't love that part of it, but it's like, I can't blame them. It's like, they grew up in this area. What are they going to do? Suddenly get rich and move somewhere else? Like, I don't know. But yeah, it kind of makes you a certain way.
Especially with women, you don't mean like, you mean especially like people that are in that lonely place are especially excited to be.
I feel like a lot more men are lonely than women, because women are raised to socialize with each other and be emotionally like connected, but it's so not normalized for men.
One thing I've found about doing this is that I've learned that these podcasts, and like, I don't listen to podcasts like this much anymore because I do one. Yeah, this is my version of it, but that like, I just found out that like, it's almost all men that listen to this kind of shit. That like, and maybe that is because there's a lot of lonely men who are like, well, I want to be next to a conversation. Right. I want to feel like I'm with people that are talking off the cuff. Like Car Talk was so engaging because it sounded like it was so fun. They were having such a gas, you know. And how many men must have killed themselves when that went off the air? That was like the last. That's why they keep rerunning them, right? Yeah. They're like, don't worry, it's syndicated, baby. Keep that gun in the safe. I mean, that's what I think I've learned, that this is mostly for men. I think maybe because of that reason. Yeah, I don't know. Which is kind of sad. I'm like, one more thing I'm doing that resonates mostly with dudes, you know. Anytime you do a joke and only the dudes laugh, it's like, that's bad.
Like, do you have an example of a bit that you do that's like that?
I don't do.
You're trying to cut
I've
it
been
out.
aware of that, so I just always would like, fuck that. You know, This is not a Kid Rock concert or whatever.
Right.
Sweaty dudes.
Kid Rock. The most fucking cosplay poor boy. He's like, I'm in a tank top. It's like, bitch, you're rich. You fucking rich asshole. You're not really poor. Is he really from the trailer park? Someone was like, he's really actually rich and he's...
I mean, you mean originally? I think he was from a well-to-do family.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
in Detroit area somewhere. Yeah.
So it's like he's all trying to pretend like he's from the trailer park and wearing a little wife beater. I was like,
yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, I'm resentful because when I host karaoke, people always want to sing "Picture," and I'm just so sick of hearing that song. Him and Sheryl Crow's duet.
So you host a weekly karaoke?
Unfortunately, no, I'm just kidding. I don't want to talk too much. No, I still need to for money. No, it's fun.
I think when we tried to schedule this, I threw out a Monday, and you were like, "Well, I do karaoke on Sunday night, so I need my recovery day." And I was like, "Our lives could not be more different."
And I try to take Sundays. Sometimes I try to give my shift away because it really puts me through the ringer of staying up so late, because post Helene especially, I love going to bed early, waking up early.
Yeah, the crushing responsibility of doing that,
so
posting that karaoke and then having a recovery day. That's
well, I mean, I get done at 2 a.m. I can't get myself to sleep.
Right, because you're jacked up. Yeah, right. That makes sense.
It's like performing, you know? Because I get my little jokes in. People laugh. They're like, hey, you're funny.
Yeah, it's stage time, right?
Yeah, it's stage time, baby. Yeah. It's 4 hours. Not 4 hours, obviously. Most people... It's 50 songs on average. I'm a very efficient host, so that's a lot of fucking songs, in case you're wondering.
And you're doing, probably, I would imagine, not pre-written jokes, but just kind of broom jokes.
Just riff.
Somewhat. Yeah,
I just do, yeah.
And that's the thing. That's a skill that we'll keep coming back to at present versus, like, I have memorized my bits that are the best.
Yeah, it's just...
And I know the order.
It's always in the moment, you know, like,
and that's what this is. This is like flexing the in the moment muscle. We're holding mics, and it's like we don't know, and I think there's always something more engaging about that. At
any moment I could do something really crazy.
That wouldn't
that
be
wasn't
up by
it wouldn't
mic,
really translate unless you're watching. Even watching, did that translate? Is that
put it on video, skip it back 15. You know, the little 15 button.
Do you like physically dynamic like Casey Rocket? Do you ever watch him? He's very funny.
Yeah, I mean, we love him, and it's mainly because he's such a new, like, what the hell is this? Like, it is, it's just kind of like...
But he's been doing it a long time.
Really?
He's just blown up more recently. But he started in Atlanta years ago.
Did he?
Yeah.
I wonder, like, was he... Originally,
as far as I know,
was he like a guy that started doing more like one-liners and became more of a physical? Because I almost think he's doing some new branch of comedy that imitators might, but it's kind of not even like you were saying, like Bargatze or the traditional stand-up.
Right.
He's so not.
Yeah.
It's like I don't even know. It's like almost more like Reggie Watts than.
Yeah, I think he does his own thing, and I think that's a cool thing about finding your voice or whatever. It's like he's just Casey Rocket.
And your voice could even be like inaudible too. I think most of his voice is. Physical.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess you just gotta go check him out now. I love I don't want to talk, too poorly about Kill Tony because he's a my friend Hans. No, I don't care about Tony's feelings, but Hans Kim, my friend that I did comedy with a few times in different cities, but he blew up from Kill Tony and is now doing like arenas with Joe Rogan. So I'm like, good. I'm glad
he's
that
funny.
People like him got opportunities from that.
And he's not saying hateful. Not the whole time.
Sometimes he's kind of edgelordy on the line.
Well, he's got to rock that world. He's got to give the Kill Tony universe what they want.
I think there's sometimes it's like remember when Chappelle quit the show because he was doing a racial pixie skit and the white camera guy laughed at the racist part. And not at what he... So he was like, am I criticizing stereotypes or reinforcing them or whatever? And so that's part of why he didn't come back to the show or whatever. But there's layers of things that people do with comedy where, like, I think Hans Kim, sometimes he's being ridiculous, and he's like, obviously I'm kidding, and that's why I can say this because it is a joke.
Where does the truth lie? In
I
your
don't
heart, it's
obviously
one way,
believe. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Like in your heart, you're being ironic, or you're saying like, I'm doing an impression of something that's the evil in the world.
Right.
But then part of the audience goes, yeah, I knew it. Being evil was all right. You mean like there can almost be like, where's the truth lie in the audience or in the that's part of the whole complicated nature of like. Now where you're just cutting up out of context. Like, may I ask where you stand on Chappelle, like in 2025?
I haven't. So the thing is, there are trans comics that I love and respect who have been very like vocal about being upset by the things he's said. And so because of that, I'm like, well, they're intelligent and I respect their opinion, and they are just as smart, if not smarter than me, and more into comedy and more whatever. So why would I have a better take than they do on the stuff that's about their identity? So I'm just like, Chappelle's, for what it's worth, and Killing Him Softly, and his HBO half hour where he's talking about, you can tell what kind of work people are doing based on the music they're doing. They're singing that where he puts the stool on his back. Oh my God, it's so funny. But
that era,
it's a classic. That era of him where he was not an icon. He wasn't infamous. He wasn't famous, really. He was like a regular guy experiencing life as a young black man, and experiencing racism and seeing all this different stuff. And, it was funnier, and I was younger and more simple. And then you just see him become kind of a person who's this, weird sect of society of celebrity that is basically our version of deities, and we just have these weird gods that are like the Kardashians, and a lot of them aren't very smart, or they are smart but they are surrounded by yes people who never tell them anything negative about what they say and criticize them, and so then they aren't ever challenged to think critically about the things that they're saying and how it might be harmful or wrong or whatever the words might be. But it's like if Robin Tran says, oh, I don't like the stuff that Chappelle said in his new special, it doesn't really make me want to watch it. And then the last time I tried to watch one of his Netflix specials, I didn't laugh at the first little bits. I was like, and then he was like bragging about how he reverse engineered the joke from the punchline or something about hitting him in the pussy or something. And I was just like, okay, well, that wasn't funny. I was like, I probably wouldn't have even laughed at that at an open mic. And that was sad to me because I was like, you used to be one of my fucking heroes.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of the greats.
I'm all right with that with music and stuff, though, that a person can, that era of David Bowie can be your David Bowie, and it's
true.
And then he becomes some other thing.
Right.
And it's like, but he was still, we're allowed to change. I do think that you hit on something there as far as like when he was like a regular guy, like comedy is supposed to be, truthful to some degree. And then when you get to the point of like, he's just
not
such
experiencing a
cultural
real
icon. Yeah. Like why are we listening to like Bert Kreischer, talk?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
another rich person.
That's why this podcast is it's real people struggling to try to get an 8 to 10 minute spot for $35. Like it's all real. Like, it's not celebrities. Like, I mean, like comedy, I guess rock stars did that, but it's like, it makes more sense to me for a rock star to be a mega celebrity like Mick Jagger than Chappelle.
Right.
But maybe that's just because that model's existed culturally longer.
I think comedy just became more of an industry in the last, 5,
it is
8
the culture.
years. It's part of the culture now. So it's like suddenly, to riz someone up, you got to be fucking hilarious and hot. The thing that I think is funny to me about comedy is just seeing how much it's like the realification of comedy has made it so there are so many more hot people. And
it used to be just Dane
It used
Cook.
to just be just the regular guys like us. Come on now. But I just feel like
that's why I got into it. I'm like, my hair's gone. I'm getting ugly. I'm going to go into this place where you can. That's an advantage. And then comedy gets all hot. I'm like, what the fuck is it?
Yeah. What the hell? But I mean,
I was following Tom Peters' lead. I was like, our looks are going, so we're doing this new thing. And then all these handsome fucking people start stealing your spots.
Yeah.
Same as music.
That is how it kind of, I don't know. But it's like, at the end of the day, it's like you have someone that's really present and hilarious and entertains you, it's like that's just a gift. And whatever, it can be free at the open mic, or maybe you paid too much and you're sitting in the Thomas Wolfe and you're in the nosebleeds. But if you're like going home happier, laughing with better whatever endorphins in you, maybe you'll be less racist to the person who cuts you off, or sexist, or whatever.
I think so. And if you had that laughter in it as a shared experience with 1,000 people, I do think there's something transcendent and healing about that. As we increasingly get more like my reality is me alone on the toilet or whatever. I think that there is some chemicals that get released or something. I don't know. Yeah. What the science would be, but the shared experience is important. And
I hope that that people, I mean, it's as far as I can see, all I see is people becoming more addicted to their phones and their devices. And everywhere I look when I'm walking and paying attention, I just see people like looking at their phone.
I'm more addicted than I ever have been. Like, Emily just goes into the bathroom when the movie's paused. I'm like, better just, and then I'm like, why? What am I don't even have a thing to click on. Like,
right. And you just check your email
memory.
Again.
Yeah.
Check the email.
Which I don't even want. Yeah, I'm checking email because I'm in my 40s. I'm like, there's other ways to.
I don't know. I was thinking of something I do compulsively that is unnecessary, gratuitous like screen time.
Oh, I was hoping there'd be some more junk mail to kind of swipe out. Like there's never anything in here that I want to see anymore.
I get the most bummer emails. It's like, because I signed up for I signed different petitions in my college years, like for animal rights and women's rights. I get like the most esoteric. It's like, punish the man who punched the opossum in the face. And it's just like the petitions are getting like so esoteric. I'm like,
you gonna let him get away with that?
Yeah. I'm like, oh. But then there's other serious stuff in there too, but about whatever, war and children and But
those big world problems though.
I know. But to heal those problems, it's like you do have to heal yourself and what is being triggered by those things, which is part of my process now. It's like all this stuff, all these victims and people being victimized, like as a former or survivor or whatever, I feel the victimization aura is fucking huge. And just the grief of just millions of people were culled from our society because they were vulnerable. It didn't have to be this way, but Ding Dong was president while COVID happened. And so just the weakest, don't worry, just our grandmas and grandpas and everyone we love that was immunocompromised or little baby. It's like we cull those people out of our society and then we act like, oh, everything's going to be fine and we can just rebuild and we're coming back stronger than ever. And I'm just kind of like, I don't need the stronger than ever messaging. I need communicative restitution. I don't know what it is, but it's it needs to be something that I don't know. I guess it's I'm not going to be a politician, but the politics that exist are so harrowing. I don't know how to participate in society. I'm just so far from whatever it is that is happening, the two-party system. I'm just I'm so detached from this whole thing because it's so removed from reality. Like you're saying, the climate research, you see the direness of the numbers. So it's that's why there's scientists crying and super gluing themselves to buildings in protest, because
I can only get so paralyzed though. Sometimes I can kind of load this thing into my brain that's we're all gonna die real soon. Life is short one way or another. Just try to do good today.
Yeah, I mean, you're a dad, so you have to just be looking at the future in a positive way.
Yeah.
You can't be oh, it's all doom and gloom, because you got to build a world for these kiddos.
Yeah, the world's just burning, and I just pull the curtain one fish, two fish.
Yeah.
La, la, la.
Yeah.
It's just what's that behind? It's don't look out the window.
Don't look
it's
at
fine.
that.
There's a mob of people.
Yeah, remember Katie Grayson had a bit about teaching the children about the horrors and what age,
I love that bit.
Yeah, it's I think about that sometimes because it's at what age do you teach them about this stuff? And it's becoming more relevant to learn while they're trying to ban those books and erase this history and all this stuff.
Yeah, and my kids are learning that because they go to a charter school. But then that can have the effect of why am I even trying to think about college since we're all so fucked in 3 years anyway, So it's you should be able to have a childhood too,
Yeah, exactly.
There was a video they showed them where they opened a fish and they're look, there's plastic in the fish. And my daughter's like, I don't want to look at the fish. They're like, it's like, what? She's so paralyzed and traumatized by the plastic in the fish that now she can't even get out of bed to go near the ocean to save a fish because she's just like,
sad.
Like, we're fucked. Upset. And I'm like, I guess I wanted them to know these things.
Yeah, she's having like a Greta Thunberg type experience.
Yeah, so it's I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like
she's
it's
gonna go. She's gonna be boycotting at the Capitol soon or whatever the town hall. That's
because that shit definitely works.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is.
I mean, I'm joking, but I also think it's worthwhile to do that.
Yeah, the Sunrise Movement is heartwarming to see the young people get together.
Occupy Wall Street. They busted
that was
up
interesting.
pretty quick.
Well, that was like partly with remember that magazine was it called Counterculture? What was the magazine that Culture Jam or something? It was like some fucking magazine. Adbusters. I finally remembered.
Ding, 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 ding.
Adbusters. And
tell her what she gets, Harvey.
And David Graeber, a bunch of people and this magazine organized it. But it's, people tried to go and people try to have these times of envisioning and building a new world that wasn't based on capital and exploitation. The war machine.
I don't know that I believe that a more communist thing could ever work. But I also think that we're in late stage capitalism, and absolutely it just becomes more like the separation of the elite and the peasants is widening, and it's going in a bad direction. But also I'm like,
the literacy on the impact of communism that has happened in America is just, it's pretty propaganda-y, like.
Oh yeah.
So it's
the
like
Cold War still rhetoric still here.
Cold for whom? Hot for a lot of Asians who got burned with napalm. So it's like, I just think communism is this big, taboo McCarthy era, whatever triggering thing, and people think it's all about whatever, famine and all this shit. But it's like it brought more people out of poverty, and it uplifted so many more peasants and regular ordinary people and families and put food on their table and allowed them their humanity than like say maybe our times now, which is the collapsing of the middle class and they're about to pass. I just heard they're about to pass something that Trump hilariously named. It's like one big beautiful law or some fucking crazy name like that, and it's like about to usurp even more of the wealth to the top. So it's like, get ready, folks, because it's basically going to tax more poor people more, and then exempt rich people. So if people are really into eliminating poverty, they can look at Matthew Desmond or whatever. He was just here. He talked about how if all the rich people that paid their due taxes, we could solve poverty and homelessness in America.
Yeah, it does sound like a good idea, but they're all mixed up in there. I don't know.
So ha ha ha. Comedy.
I mean, I don't have any good ideas or solutions for the world. Honestly, I just try to be good to your community. Like the people in your house first, then the people on your street.
Yes.
So you definitely move to a gated community so you're taking care of the
right, and no one weird comes in.
But yeah,
there needs to be a code.
I don't know. Anytime I say anything about those topics, a lot of the things I say on here I don't agree with later. That's encouraged as well. But especially when I try to speak to the world or the big things. Like paralysis is just so, I just get paralyzed, mentally and emotionally with the really big stuff. And I don't know if that's like there's different types of people, and I don't understand how anyone could have the capacity to take on the really big global stuff. But I hope that there are people that can and do it. I can support them with my votes. I try to do that.
I just think people power, man. More people need to just be liberated and less enslaved and be allowed to be free instead of toiling at their dead-end wage labor jobs.
The internet and AI and stuff, there's like this is like dichotomy. I feel like there is so much good representation and information, but then there's all so it's like there's just more of
swag.
And it's getting sharper on both.
Yeah.
Is it how a double-edged sword works? They're both sharp, right?
Yeah.
So it's like
one could be more dull if you wanted to get crazy.
Louis had a bit about that.
Right, about how everything's a double-edged
Everything's
sword.
a double.
Yeah.
Even a single-edged sword is a double-edged sword. One side's sharp, the other side's flat. Can't cut with it. It's kind of a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I mean,
Shouldn't be
it's true,
quoting his
though.
jokes anymore, but
Yeah, he's canceled. He's still apparently jerking off in front of ladies that don't want to be jerked off in front of.
Jesus.
That's the word based on the New York hot comics, young comic, lady comics. So yeah,
You should film
not
that hour.
shout
though.
out to him.
You should do that hour. I think it's time.
Well, so this is the tangent I went on, but it's like I talked to different comics that film their hour or whatever, or taped it at least as an album, and it's like some people, they ran the hour over and over. Other people only ran it in chunks, like 20-minute chunks. And I'm like, I guess I could try to do
that's easier.
3 different 20-minute. But it's like, is the hour special even desired or even like a paradigm that is going to continue to exist in this attention span era? Like, I think the paradigm is going to be for shorter specials because people's attention spans aren't for a fucking hour, one whole hour where I'm not looking at my phone or looking at one thing on my phone.
It's asking a lot.
Hell fucking no.
I mean, let's do a graph of like how many specials were released per year since the first one.
And like how many good ones.
And like, how
many ones that you want to watch again.
It's
Maria
the same
Bamford's
number of
the
good
only
ones.
one that I would probably watch it. Well, Brian Regan, I Walked on the Moon's very funny, but did you ever see that one? You have to see it if you haven't.
I sort of know his bits from
okay, but you have to see I Walked on the Moon because it starts out with he's calling the ambulance for himself, which you don't do that, right? You usually call it for someone else.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's like this is the era where he was selling out giant rooms, but he tapes it in a tiny little improv and he's just murdering the whole time. And it's so satisfying because Brian Regan Live, the CD that introduced me to him, there's not a video version of that hour and he's just killing so hard and it's so funny and you kind of want to see it because you know he's kind of a visual guy and he does a lot of act outs.
Cartoony.
So it's so satisfying to watch. I Walked on the Moon. Anyways, he has a bunch of classic bits on it, but I don't know, like now I've seen him clip up that special and put the clips on the internet and I'm like happy to see that they're getting traction, but I'm like, I think that's just kind of more the trend. It's just like with music, people used to care about albums, side A, side B. Now it's like, oh, I heard that 30 seconds on TikTok.
Oh yeah, even the single's too long now. Like
exactly.
And that's, I mean, I've seen that trend because, I've been putting out albums and content since the 90s and it's simple math. It's like you throw your shit into a pool. How big is that pool? Back when it was small and there was 2 bands in your high school that put out a CD, it was a huge deal.
Right.
Literally every one I put out every single year is like less important, and I don't take it personally. It's like
it's just
there's
more
new
stuff
kid,
out there.
And the laptop allows you to just make it yourself. So now we're entering that with comedy, where it's just all of it is online. There's more than you can watch, so its value is diminished. But I still, for me, it's like, and this might be an old man perspective, is I like to say like I put out like these 20 albums, and I can go back and remember getting divorced in my 20s or whatever, and like so for a comedy thing, it's like I put a stamp on it. I can put in my bio that I released something, and I time stamped it, and that's enough. Yeah. But it sure is cool when other people like watch it. Right. But
that's what you want.
You never know.
You want to put out something that people want to watch.
Yeah, but if you need that to make it worthwhile, like
but
that's where just for my own psychology, if I need it to be successful with others, I'm probably gonna be miserable later.
Not successful, but you want it to resonate and you want it to be authentic to you, and you want to think it's funny. You don't want to think that you're pandering or catering in some way, or you know what I mean? It's like I want to be able to, like, when I go and listen to Maria Bamford's older albums, they don't feel dated. They don't feel like
she's the Richard Pryor of now. I think she's like
incredible.
The most,
I mean, she's the most god
tour de
of
force,
comedy.
like, and it's all vulnerability.
Yeah,
it's all like
it's all
real
about
shit.
her.
Yeah,
yes,
like
and her
trauma,
her experiences,
alchemy, fucking hilarious.
Her new special, which one was it? She has so many. The one that was not Old Baby, not the Old Baby, but the one 20%. The one maybe after 20%.
Yeah, I don't know what them like.
But her specials are so incredible. I mean, the way that and I think that people with realification, like a vignette, like something that she does, it could be like 5 minutes, it could be much longer of a bit, but there's all kinds of little jokes and punchlines throughout the whole thing. It's not like a setup, and you know when to laugh because of and I hate that. Like you see it, and it's like you see some people do well at mics and because they're just doing the beats of it, and you're like, that's not really.
I like a little of that. My ideal show has one of them. But then it's also got like a Maria Bamford or Richard Pryor, which there's not going to be because there's like one in the world that's that level. But it's like, but somebody that's in that style. But I do kind of like the traditional.
No, I mean that's satisfying for
like,
sure.
The one that plays the folk song with G, C, and D, and then you got somebody else that comes up and it's like there's a typewriter and somebody's like smashing. Like, somebody's like doing some crazy Tom Waits.
There's a watermelon and it's being smashed.
Yeah. It's a great idea. You should do that and then your special. But also
know.
like your special is never going to be perfect. Like I see people often never. Your first thing is the hardest one to put out. Like bands always break up or don't put out that first album because you get in there and start getting crazy about it.
Right.
And then it's like
it breaks
you just
got to
get exactly. You just get it out. Your first thing's never going to be perfect, but like then the next thing. If you do a next one, then you're like you've done one before, and like with Maria Bamford or somebody like on that level, it's like it's not even about any one special; it's about the whole body of work, and how it holds up. Or Richard Pryor, like I mean, to me they're like the, I mean, that is a higher level for my taste than even though I still kind of like that.
I love it all.
Maybe Mitch Hedberg is like takes the short jokes to the.
He was different because he was trippy
different.
And he wasn't just he would like the thing he had about the acid trip and watching the frog, that was an extended bit.
Yeah, he would go long sometimes, and
he was very abstract and like very dreamy. And I love that, it was very surreal. And like Conan's skits back in the day, they were kind of surreal and absurd, and they were just like what are it and
that's true. He's talking about like Twix bars or whatever, but it still is bleeding edge somehow. Just by the way he talks.
It's but I don't know. I mean, ideally we're all doing different things and taking different risks, but it's like you're trying to find your voice, what's true to you. It's like I used to just stand there more and be more deadpan because that was more true to me and who I was, and I was more insecure and I had less confidence and I gave more of a fuck about whatever the content of what I was saying, and my jokes, and I was really in my head about like what jokes and what tags. That I was a lot more like this, but now I get in the room and I'm like, what the fuck's up, motherfucker? Like, and I think people prefer when you're more engaged because they're like, who is this? This is someone that's really like, is feeling every little like electric little vibration in the room. They're tapped in, and it's that whole embodiment thing that we've been talking about is like, that's what I have to practice doing because my automatic mechanism is to just daydream and be in my head and think about these different.
I feel like you've always
things.
kind of been more like the second one though. As long as I've been watching you, there's always been some of that. Maybe
tried.
That was before I started, but I feel like you've always been more animated and more of a performer, which is great. Like Mario is another person that Mario. He's been back and forth. I can't remember who's been here at the same time, but he like even if he's just talking about his day like you, it's like it feels. Hillary,
call it ethnic. No, I'm
moving.
just kidding.
Yeah, Hillary, white lady.
She grew up with mostly black people. I had to tell her, you can't say the N-word, baby. She's like, what?
Yeah.
She's like, but I don't, it's not hateful. And I'm like, I know it's not hateful. I know it's full of love, actually. It's really
I saw her
authentic.
drop it once and got away with it somehow.
But because she grew up in South Carolina and it's like most of her friends were black growing up. So she didn't know it was like bad.
Yeah.
She didn't know it was inappropriate.
People can feel that it's like it wasn't from a hateful place. And it
wasn't.
Fun. I mean, I'm not, I'm not going to try, but nor do I, want to, but
me neither.
But yeah, I mean, it didn't feel like a problem.
But she, and it's like there's other comics I'm sure that grew up more diverse areas that had friends that said it all the time. So it's like they say it along to rap songs and they're like, oh, sorry, because they were just so used to being that way. But then some black comics have told me like they really hate it when non black people say it.
Sure.
And I'm like, why wouldn't you hate it?
That's
it's
how
not okay.
I operate under the assumption that is
they're like
the way it is.
They're like, South Asian people think they can say it because they're brown, and it's like, no, you can't say it. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know.
I got into Sexy Red's music there for a minute and was like just really into it for like road trips alone and staying up.
It's great driving music.
And I went into some podcasts and she said on one of them that I don't mind if white people say it. You know?
Great.
Which I didn't take. I'm not going to, but I just thought it was interesting. I'm like, this is a person that's probably like 20 years younger than me. That maybe there's some next thing coming where not allowing people to say it.
Everything's becoming
it's
the
like
same.
The
Nothing
fact
has meaning.
Like I'm just about done with Huck Finn. I read Tom Sawyer. I'm trying to read all these old books. Reading was hard for me when I was young, so I'm going back. And so I've been reading that word a lot.
Right.
Silently in my mind.
Yeah.
And it's been... But it's also like, you know, you're familiar, it's like super progressive for the time. I mean, it's like
because it's kind of critical, right?
Yeah,
of the racism.
Yeah, and it's like the character Jim is like the sweetest, most like
he's the most humane.
Yeah, and he's also got deep wisdom with him too, even though it's like in his culture. So
he's
it's
humanized.
But that word is in there so much. He's super human. He's humanized more than like Huck's kind of also an outsider whose dad is like, so he's not part of white society either. So it's kind of like
it's about
this is the real shit. And it's crazy to just read, like at first I was like, I don't even know if I can allow myself to read it silently.
Yeah.
But then I think it's been kind of healing just to like, this is a word, this is what was said, like
so much. Yeah.
And then of course I'm like never gonna say it, but just reading it makes me be like, it's gonna be in my brain.
That's another
and I'll
Louis
be holding the mic later. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because you're making me say it in my head.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He got away with saying it a lot in those days too, which I don't have an interest in that, but there is I mean it is like I think in my culture for who I am right now, it's the most powerful word. Yeah. Because I don't think there's any other word I would never say.
Right.
I mean, you know, there's a few that
so you would say chink. Oh, okay.
It doesn't seem as bad for some reason, right?
It's not.
Because
simply,
of slavery here, I guess,
it simply does not have the historical and sociocultural like potency and trauma that Although lots of Chinese people were killed during the railroads,
it's bad.
And they weren't allowed to be in the photos, and they were killed. Anyways,
and I still wouldn't say that one, but for me, for me, it's like that one is like if I had to say what is the worst word of all time, you know, right, or of this time, not of all time, because the whole point
let's go all time.
It was like a word. It's used in this very sentence where he's making this poignant outpouring of like how much he loves this character and how unjust the world is, and it's like the word's in there 3 times, and now it's like if you use that word, you're saying so it's it just breaks my brain in a way that cognitive. So it's like a disinformationist or something where like these conversations, it's like it later there might be something that comes from it. For now, I'm just like in a dissonant.
You're saying
cognitive
shit
space.
when you're dreaming, and your wife's like, "What'd you say, babe?"
Some racist dreams over there. I'm like, I'm reading Mark Twain. It's fine. My dreams have gotten awfully racist since I started.
All the best people in your dreams are cool black people, but they have horrible racist nicknames. You're like, you're my favorite person on earth.
But I can't tell anyone about our relationship because
oh my God.
My subconscious is giving you a very racist name.
I think, I mean, basically there is a reason why books are being banned and they're trying to stop the teaching of slavery, right? Like if it wasn't important, why would they be trying to ban the books? And it's basically admitting like, yes, literature, art, these things matter and they have an impact. And the fascists are like, stop the impact. We don't want the impact. We want to keep it all clean. And there was no racism and everyone loved each other and the Indians and we had Thanksgiving. And it's like, that's the kind of narrative that we're told is true about America till like I came here, I didn't really know anything about this country, and then I come here and then it wasn't really till I was a teenager that I started being like, oh yeah, what do they teach us about Indians again? And I like look it up on the internet now that it exists when I'm in high school or whatever, and then I'm like, actually, there's a lot of misinformation that I was taught in grade school.
I went to Europe when I was like 20 because I'm privileged, and and that was when it was like every hostel people are like, you aware how all the shit you learned about Paul Revere? And I was just like, oh, kind of, but I guess not enough, you know? And then I got educated, which was great.
Yeah.
But then by the end of that trip, I'm like, I know. Like, I got to come in every room and be like, I'm one of the ones that knows.
Okay. But also Europe is like some of the worst colonial powers. So it's like they always get so uppity about human rights. And it's like, it was like a half a grandma ago that you were be-arming and be-legging people in the Congo. So let's relax, Belgium. France.
Like Canada's hands are that clean.
They're not. There's all this.
They're the ones that are really like, we're not you.
God.
We're not you. We might sound like you and look like you. You guys are bad. We're all good. It's like, all right.
Don't get me started about the indigenous schools and the mass unmarked graves and shit of indigenous children that they're finding in Canada. And it's always like missionary schools, Catholic schools, and it's like, okay, that they're not places of God.
And you guys didn't even give Jim Carrey the infrastructure to make it. So, like...
Jim Carrey. I was thinking about Ace Ventura, and I was like, little bits of that movie will come into my head because I watched it when it was like, it kind of seared itself onto my brain,
like,
you know?
Yeah.
But then I think about the stuff I remember, and it's like the dumbest stuff from that movie that I remember. I was like, oh, he talked with his butthole. I remembered that.
Oh, it wasn't the really like thought-provoking. That's weird that the dumb parts would be the one. I must have forgotten
I totally forgot.
That's all that it was.
I heard it has a really problematic ending. I don't remember at all. Like the villain was like a trans person. Apparently there was a villain. I was like, I don't remember him having a villain. But it was some reveal that they were trans. And I was like, oh no, that's extremely problematic. Like I just wanted it to be all silly about how he had a crazy hair and he talked all weird and his eyebrows were slanty. But
it was about the evils of transitioning to a different gender.
No.
How that was,
But the amount of transphobic shit that we were fed that was supposed to be funny, like Pat on SNL, I was like, oh, that was very anti-trans people.
Wasn't the joke with Pat was like, you don't know, and that's funny, right?
Well, exactly. And it's basically feeding the narrative that gender belongs in these two very solid categories, and if you're in between, it's creepy, and it's like a policing weirdy thing.
But couldn't you also say like, but then SNL was progressive because they put somebody that wasn't in the binary, and they made us all sit in that space.
Well, but
that's
to
why
what? But it's not like a
and now
good
we live
character.
in a utopia because of Pat.
Yeah, but I hate that it was like Pat was like the butt of the joke, and it was like, we didn't know what you are, and that's the punchline of everything that they say is like, what are you? And it's like, as a person who is asked what are you in this town, I fucking hate that shit.
It's like that Chappelle cameraman laugh where it's a laugh that feels
creepy,
kind of from a hate.
But that is like a progressive positive change that has happened within our lifetime, not to sound too old and boomery, but that is for the positive. Like, even if I'm seeing like encroaching fascism and a lot of hatred against immigrants and racism and whatever, it's like, well, there's a lot of progressive stuff about sexual freedom, but that's not really an accident, because it's like the identity politics are supposed to be a diversion from the war machine and all the other shit, so that we're like, oh yeah, well now the bomb that's being dropped has a rainbow on it or whatever, or the plane dropping the bombs. Anyways,
like in the next concentration camp that we're all in, you'll be allowed to be any gender or on the spectrum. You're like, we solved that.
Exactly.
Oh, shit. we were
exactly. Yeah. And that's the shit that I'm scared of and I have dreams about. But maybe we'll live in a totally moneyless society where we barter and we take care of each other in smaller communities, and we just go visit far away sometimes, but we have to go by boat. There's no planes because there's no fuel.
Yeah, let's end on that happy note. Let's end on that. That seems like a good place. I bet we've
moneyless society.
I bet we've been talking longer than you would think.
Probably a long time. I had a bunch of coffee.
No, it's good. No, it's great. I like it. If I've done a good job by the end, people go, "Whoa, it was that much."
Okay.
Instead of like, Jesus, how long did you make me?
I didn't even get to do my Tom York warm-ups. Well, it was
fun talking to you.
Fun talking to you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.